This is the Tan Talk Radio Network.
It's time for Soulmates to Soulmates with your hosts, Dr. Gordon Pillay and Carrie Pillay.
Hey, welcome to our show, Soulmates to Soulmates. I'm Dr. Pillay.
And I'm Carrie Pillay. It's good to have you back.
Hey, it's been a whole week since you've been with us.
That's right.
Last week, let me say a few things first. I want to remind you about our website, interventionsinc.com.
Oh, yeah.
And most of the things we talk about, handouts and different materials, we have available there.
That's right.
Also,
and we're on Facebook at Soulmates to Soulmates.
And that makes it real easy.
Yeah, it does. We're getting a lot of good traffic there.
And I also want to point out that all of our shows are podcast on irnbroadcast.com.
Yeah.
And they are available 24/7 worldwide. So if you want to, if you're in your comfortable chair in Egypt, you want to download us there, you can.
So you can get a hold of us if you want to go to the Soulmates to Soulmates Facebook page, or if you want to send email, you can send us email. I'm at cpillay@interventionsinc.com.
And I'm at gpillay@interventionsinc.com. Funny how that works, right?
Yeah.
I want to remind you a few things. Last week we talked about the emotional, healthy family, and we were barraged with so much internet mail because I think we spirited on some pretty good thoughts about what is an emotionally healthy family.
Yes, and then what about my family? That was the follow on there. Well, what about this? Is what my family looks like. Is this okay? And we didn't find anything we didn't think wasn't okay, because in our mind it's not about who's in the family, but our definition of an emotionally healthy family is
any family that problem solves sufficiently well enough that allows each member of their family to meet their goals or potential.
Right.
But some of the interesting things we had, I had a lady that had five children from 5 different male partners,
5 baby daddies,
all living in the same household, each with different names.
Yeah.
And she was trying to convey to me her frustration that when she went to PTA meetings, that many of the people at the school didn't know they were all her kids.
Because they all had different names.
They all had different names.
Sure.
So that was interesting. And by the way, she's engaged, but not pregnant for a 6th. But
my God.
But those are some of the things we had. And then the other thing, of course, was a lot of folks were raised by their grandparents. See?
Yeah, that one surprised me. I don't see that one a whole lot. I hadn't been aware of it a whole lot, I guess is what I should say. But yeah, I had quite a few who were like, well, I didn't know my parents very well. My grandmother raised me.
My grandmother raised me. And you see, the idea that the role that your grandparents fulfilled was the roles of your biological family, And there's no downside to that. I mean, you can't assume that you're messed up, so to speak, because your grandparents, who were very loving and very caring. And so a lot of the feedback we gave to those folks had to do with, let me ask you some questions. Were you happy? Did you have a lot of activities? Were you supported in school? What kind of consequences did you have in life? And we got a lot of good stuff back. So I feel that many of the folks that were curious about this idea of an emotional healthy family were just trying to say, well, how do I fit into that?
Yeah, and one of the other areas that we got a lot of questions was with single parents, with parents trying to raise children, and the issues that they're having in doing that. And so tonight we thought we would focus on children and consequences.
Yeah, and that's a big one. We have a society right now that I heard this on the radio the other day, where they said 40%. New statistics showed that 40% of all families are single parents.
Yeah, that's
40%.
The census stuff is coming out, and
40%. That's astronomical. We've never seen anything like that.
No.
I saw something else that said that the average relationship lasts about 5 years.
Yeah, I've seen that too.
And so as you start putting this together, single parents, short-term relationships, lots of children, it becomes where people are struggling to, how do I raise my child, and how do I do it in such a way? Because there's one thing that we found, especially in interventions, because we work so hands-on with all of the clients here. I've never met a mother or father that didn't genuinely want to convince me how dearly loved they were, the connection, the bond they had for their child, and their genuine willingness to learn anything that would help them be a better parent.
Right. Yeah. Sometimes they genuinely are there. Sometimes they get there and they're a little angry about being a part of that system, because why should I have to prove anything? And once they realize, look, you're in jeopardy of not being able to raise this little individual that you profess to love, more than yourself. And so, you gotta get on with it.
I think what Carrie's talking about is that some of our clients have to complete parent programs or anger management programs because there may be an issue with a court settlement or some other issue going on here.
Right.
But I want to remind you all, again, one more time, emotionally healthy family, any family that problem solves sufficiently well enough that allows each member of the family to meet their goals and potential.
Right.
We talked about the 4 R's. My role as a father is not the same as my role as a husband. It's not the same as my role as a boss. So the 4 R's: roles, rules, rituals, and routines.
Yeah. And when you get those things squared away in a family, you're like 80% on your way to being emotionally healthy, because everybody knows what to do and what to expect. And
if you recall in that show, we progressed along to boundaries, individual rights, problem solving, parenting style, shared emotional quality time.
Quality time, we talked about that.
We went through all that stuff, but it's all out there. Please, if you get a chance, go look at last week's show.
Absolutely.
Let me start off by trying to give us some idea of how we define consequences. And Carrie, if you will, do you remember what we came up with when we taught that class about positive consequences?
Consequences are, in my mind, a reward for good behavior. When it's something that I want my child to learn, maybe that's something new I want to introduce and have them to start doing, or if they've have been exceptionally good, maybe above what my expectation was. So it's a reward.
In contrast to that, negative consequences would be penalties that would discourage a child from repeating some unwanted behavior. Penalties.
Yep.
Now,
and I think of sports when I think of penalties. I watch a little bit of hockey, and they go to the penalty box when they've high sticked somebody or checked them into the glass too hard. We understand that when we look at sports, and we don't always think about that when we, look at a change in behavior that's not acceptable to us.
And a lot of us have some recollection of positive, because positive consequences, we earn things, we get rewards. I also remind you of Grandma's rule, and that's something that most of us have come into contact with. But Grandma's rule is something like this: if you do this for me, I'll do this for you.
Yeah, it's kind of like a trade.
Yeah, you clean up your room, and Grandma will fix you a piece of apple pie or something like that.
My grandma made the best cookies.
Did she?
She did. She had her own recipe. She gave it to me.
Well, you better whip out a recipe here, because you got me salivating. So the idea that consequences. Now, let me help you with this as a sort of a backdrop. And one chronic problem we see with so many of the families we work with is that as the children are young of age, they're the toddlers and they're working in through their 3, 4, 5, etc. There's this habit that the parents get into of allowing the television to be the replacement babysitter.
Yeah.
And so in the backdrop, we've got cartoons, we've got movies, we've got the TV's always going, and as that graduates,
with the parent not there. Don't get me wrong. Don't get us wrong. I think TV, there's educational stuff on there, but the parents need to be involved for it to be educational, which means you got to sit down and watch Dora also and repeat, "Si amigo" in Spanish.
I have a hard time with Dora. I'm telling you, I wish we could get older faster. But the other thing, of course, is some parents, in order to sort of, promote that activity, help the child move, they provide Xbox and Wii and PlayStation. And now we come up to a new level. And the idea here, one more time, is, the kids are, they're just, they got the television, but there's something else going on.
But wow. It gets out of hand, and by the time parents realize it's out of hand, it's way out of hand. And lots of our parents are asking, "Well, how do I get them back?"
So let me help you. First of all, number one, I want you to know that these are privileges and they're not rights. And one thing that we try to get all of our parents to work on is to limit the ability for the television and the Xbox and the Wii Station, or whatever the game is. Turn them off. They're turned on as a positive reward for something you've done. Yeah. And think about Grandma's rule. So the idea that I set up the system in the household that the children know that I've got to be approached to be requested, if you will, can I turn the TV on, or can I play the
right? It's by permission.
Yeah.
It's not a right, and so it isn't an automatically approved.
And it works when you start to get the child conditioned to do it this way. And a classic example is if you get your child into that routine when you get home. get your uniform or your clothes changed, get your homework done. And if you get those two things done, then you can get a half an hour of this or that.
Right.
And then what happens, if you will...
They know when their favorite show's coming on. They know they have to have it done by 4:30 or they're going to miss.
Oh, my God, what am I going to do? I got to get it done real quick. Of course, Mom, Dad, let's check our homework. Because if you ask your child, did they do their homework, what do you think they're going to say?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, so you got to check it.
Done.
But the idea is that the consequence, the positive reinforcement is you do this and I'll do this for you. And it works. And if you will, we have a little tally sheet where we keep track of some of these things that our son tends to accumulate. And if I say, okay, son, I tell you what, your room's a mess, and I told you to clean it, so I'm going to take a half an hour off of something you've earned, and you would swear you're torturing him, you're cutting his fingers off. Oh, Dad, my God, don't take that away from me.
Not 30 minutes. No.
And it's such an easy thing to do. Okay, but we're going to start off. Let me give you one of our first one that just came in. I thought.